Hey, this is Tony.
This is Paul coming at you from the Friends for Life podcast.
And we're a go.
We are here yet again at the second Friends for Life podcast. Woo-hoo. And we've got our guest today, Chris. Why don't you, before we get too carried away, give us a little 10 seconds about where you're from and what you do and why you're here.
Well, my name is Chris Storrs, Assured Health Services CEO. Work with individuals with developmental disabilities. We've been doing this for 5 years. I'm married, I have a 9-year-old daughter, and Tony approached me the other day and asked me to come over and do this. So I said, I don't know what you're talking about, but you seem like a great guy. I'll come check it out.
I say that to Tony quite a bit. I have no idea what you're talking about. So to kick things off, you guys were at I guess you want to call it a training course today, right?
Well, it was a boot camp.
Bootcamp.
And CEO Bootcamp. And I was actually very surprised at how intriguing it was for the past 3 weeks. I mean, I enjoyed it quite a bit. What about you, Chris?
I was telling Paul earlier, it's what you get out of it. And when I go into these things, there's going to be good things, there's going to be bad things. And, if I can take away one thing from it, to me, it was a success.
Right.
So overall, there's a lot of it, some of it was redundant for me.
All right, gotcha.
However, I don't think there was one thing that went on that I didn't at least get something that I wrote down and was able to take away. So
Gotcha.
With that, I thought it was successful. And I thought it was really cool that the board does that.
Yeah.
Like 5 years in, much more helpful 6 months in. Like, if I was at that stage, like how cool would that have been?
Yeah.
To be like, wow, to learn all that stuff.
I'm right there with you. The newer agencies who were started right then and there, I feel as if they're going to get a lot from it, and it's going to help them, just climb that mountain a whole lot easier than what we
or at least answer some questions you might have had no idea about. And then you kind of hear so that's what that means. Okay. It's great.
And the networking was awesome. I really think that the room itself, to be able to see a whole group of people on the same mission, for one, and then for two, to not feel intimidated per se. I think a lot of smaller agencies, or not even smaller agencies, just a lot of agencies in general feel intimidated to see a person out and say, hey, I need help with this. I have a review coming up. Can you give me some pointers? So I think that was cool.
Yeah, it's cool that, everybody's kind of on the same team too. You get in a lot of businesses and it's like kind of dog-eat-dog world out there. So to see everybody working together, I wasn't part of the boot camp. I'm no CEO, but, it's really awesome. And then you guys kind of getting together to have conversations about all this stuff. So, you've been around for 5 years. Tony, you've been around for what?
Going on three.
Three. So you guys are still like in the middle age of your business, I guess. I don't want to say that. That's not right.
Well, I still feel as if we're in our infancies. If you look at statistics for most businesses, I mean, most of them 50% fail, in the first 5 years, another 50% after that in the next year, and then another 75 within the 10th year. So it's a good place to be that we've even made it as far as we have.
So something we kind of, Tony and I have discussed, how did you get into this field in particular? What started you along this path?
It's an interesting question because I started off in the financial field as a financial advisor. So I got my degree in finance, and I wanted to be a stockbroker because they looked really cool on TV, and so I got into that and started doing that. And actually, it's a straight commission type of job, at least the one that I had taken on. I was working 60 hours a week, and I might have made zero money that week.
Wow!
So I kind of took over a position recruiting as well. And as I was recruiting, I realized at that point in time, I need to get out of this field. I need to start making some money. I don't come from money. I don't have money. I'd like some money. So I started recruiting for the company that I was a financial advisor for. And when I decided I needed to leave, I started looking elsewhere. And I ran into a healthcare company, and they were hiring for a recruiter. And I'm like, well, I'm recruiting now. So I did that. So it was a healthcare company. And we did home healthcare, medical staffing. And I was doing that for 10 years. I did up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which I was kind of asking about Holland.
Wow.
And I tried quitting. twice. And my boss had told me, he's like, no, you're not. And he convinced me to stay. And then like a couple weeks later, I was like, dude, I can't anymore. And so he's like, listen, you just need to change a venue. You need to go to Ohio. You need to go to Toledo. That person there running that branch is leaving. So I was like, I'm going to go to Ohio. Like, that's where the Buckeyes are. There's no way.
Hey, Tony's not on that team.
So they transferred me here, and then 9 months later, I inevitably quit. And I took another job, and my wife had to quit her job to move here. I had a 1-year-old daughter at the time, and it was a really scary time. But I decided to invest in myself. So I was done with healthcare. I took a position in construction sales. I did that for 3 months. Then I got back into healthcare and was doing some medical sales. And long story short is, it's like 4 jobs later, I realized I really liked what I did. Mm-hmm. I would like the employees. I liked the clients we were serving. But I just didn't like being told what to do and how to do it. And I decided that if we're going to do this, I need to do this on my own. And I started with a partner who's minority owner in it. And here we are. So I guess basically I just kind of got into it because I liked what I did there at the other company. I just didn't like the bureaucracy that came with it. It was $1 billion company, so there was a lot of rules and regulations to follow. My job went from doing what I do now, which is working with people and having fun, to writing reports and sitting behind a desk. And so when this thing came up, I mean, I was scared to death when we first started.
Yeah.
I can remember Dave, my business partner, who said like, "Oh, hey, I broke ground on our new place," and I'm like, "Oh, so this is real?" Like I got a job But so that's kind of how I got started. I had a background in it, and we decided to stick in the DD side of things, with it is just disability. So not children, not seniors, not those who need health care, but this field. And the reason we did is I thought we could make the biggest impact here. Mm-hmm. But actually, our name is Shared Health Service because I didn't know what we were going to do. Yeah. So I kind of left it broad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a very, very intelligent move, honestly. I mean, there's so many people who go into it with the mindset of, I'm only going to be providing this, and this. But since you didn't know, that was very smart to leave it kind of broad and out there.
Well, I didn't think there was enough impact. I didn't think we could make it in this industry.
Really?
Well, it's there's only so many people that can receive services in this county. Right. And all of them have providers. It's not like there's new people coming in, so you have to build it out of people who aren't, are either going to leave their provider or there's some, bad circumstances that came up and they needed to get it. So, but once I started getting into it, started doing it, I realized no, this is what we were meant to do. Right. This is the field we were meant to be. And I dropped all my other brochures that talked about seniors and all that. I got rid of it all and it was just nope, this is our focus. This is who we are. This is what we do.
I think that's kind of like a universal story for a lot of people who start their own business. I mean, Tony's story is like the same story. I just listen to him tell it all the time, and it's cool to hear. And I mean, not that it's healthcare related, but I think I've had the same experience in just what I'm doing with podcasts and camera stuff like that. I went from starting to be like a backpacking guiding service to doing podcasts. You kind of the market takes you in weird places and the need takes you in weird places, and you end up oh, okay, that makes sense. You're just floating down a river, and all of a sudden you're oh yeah, I totally get this.
Well, it's funny, if you can keep your ears open, you can be silent. You're directed. Right. There's somebody else directing all of these things, and it's just a matter of, are you listening?
Exactly.
And are you taking those things? For me, it was kind of crammed down my throat. And I was like, Chris, no, stop it. This is what you're supposed to do here. But to hear your story, and you talk about that as well, I think there's a higher power that's really responsible for all of it. And it's, and it just, the mistakes that I made in my life, he just kept saying, nope, you got to keep going. Mm-hmm. So I think if we all just listen and we're quiet and we just be patient.
It's funny that you say that, because I was telling a group of people the other day, if you put up my resume of my life, between my parents, my mom was 17 when I was born, my dad was 16, my mother addicted to drugs, my dad in prison, just those little things right there should have me not where I'm at, by most people's standards. Yeah. And then going forward, even more, some of the stupid mistakes that I've made and, the dumb decisions, it's okay, who's who's on the remote right now? Because
it ain't me.
Yeah, because if it was up to me, I probably would be in a horrible, terrible place. But something guided me to doing the right thing. So I definitely agree with you there, Chris.
So you guys are both in the same field. I'm the out guy here. I'm here to make sure we don't get too off course. So what are some things you guys are seeing overall that maybe? This might be a tough question overall. Like, what's some of the harder stuff that you're dealing with day to day in the field? I'm sure there's a lot of minutia that you deal with and a lot of weird, like, walls you hit in this field because I don't know if delicate's the right word, but there's probably a lot of strange stuff you run into all the time.
Well, Chris, let's try a little social experiment. Let's see if we can say it at the same time. On the count of three, probably the biggest problem in this field is. Okay,
yeah.
1, 2, 3.
People.
And staff, people. But yeah, that's the biggest issue.
In what ways?
Well, we work with people, right? We take care of people. That's what we do, or we support them. We help them.
Correct.
We help them with other people, and the people that we're serving are emotional, have bad days, have horrible days, have trauma backgrounds. Our staff are emotional, have children, they get sick, they have bad days, they have maybe trauma backgrounds as well. So you're trying to get somebody who's in a bad mood, somebody else who's in a bad mood, trying to work together, and that can blow up. And in our field too, it's more one-on-one.
Yeah.
So this person's sick, can't go to work. That impacts. It's not like we're at Burger King, we're working short.
Yeah.
That's a whole operation.
Yep.
we got to try to figure out how to get somebody there.
So is it just hard to get people to work in the field in general, or is it just is there just a shortage of staffing?
I think it's hard to get people to really take a grasp into how serious this work is and accept the amount of pay that they get for it. It's easy, I think, to find a staff person for the short term, but it's finding someone for the long term who's going to have that same kind of dedication that you will have going in. I know when I would work a shift, I'm going to leave the house as clean as I possibly can. I'm going to leave my individual as happy as I possibly can. And I'm going to do my due diligence and my paperwork and things that I have to do in order to get paid. Not everybody feels that way. So translating that from a CEO to a supervisor to a site manager or a house manager, whatever kind of company that you're in, I think it gets lost in translation sometimes.
And that's probably a universal problem.
Anywhere
you work, there's always like people who like high achievers, and then there's people who are just there to work, and that's kind of hard. But if you had I guess I was thinking more along the lines of like, on the legal side of things, is it tough to navigate those waters a lot of the time? It's I see this as like not pseudo, but like part healthcare, part like caretaking, part. There's just so many things that recreational care like enfolds, and it's really an outsider view. I'm like, how do you make that happen? Like, it seems like a lot of paperwork. Is a lot of roadblocks with that. Everything's changing.
Well, for me, you just take care of the person. I'm a very compliant person. Like I read the rules and make sure that we're being compliant. We're following what we need to. However, at the same time, I always do make sure we do what's right by that person. If that means I had to break a rule to take care of that person, I sleep good at night. They come in and say, hey, you're shut down. You did this wrong. Man, that guy has a better life now. He's taken care of. You know what? Cool. I did my part. I'm out. So like for me, with the legal and everything else, like to me, it's just, if you can just take care of the person and you treat them as your main priority, right? Not what the state says, not what the money says, just take care of the person. I sleep good at night. And I know in the long run, somebody's looking out for me and it'll work out.
Yeah, I agree with Chris on that. The only thing that I think a little different about is I think people get caught up on that part of it too much, on the rules and regulations aside from the people. Like, if you take care of that person, the rest kind of just goes together. There's certain things that we have to do. Like if we have to call the MUI unit in our field of work, that's kind of like calling the FBI. And that's how people think of it and feel about it. But 9 times out of 10, if you are doing what you're supposed to do, it's going to be a short-lived situation. So the best thing to do is, teach your people the right way to do things and stand by them, even if they mess up. If it's a mess up that they purposely tried to do, then by all rights, handle it accordingly. But if it's an accident, you have to stand by them. I've seen too many agencies kind of throw their staff to the wolves over a simple mistake. And I think that that's just terrible.
So, as CEOs, you guys have a little different perspective. I know you both kind of worked your way up into the world. This isn't just something that was handed to you like, hey, here's your CEO position, So with that perspective, what's like some of the stuff, if you could change some things, just if you could just what would you change about what you do day to day? Anything, like just rule, regulate, just some of the BS you deal with.
Ooh, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question, because if everything was within our power to be able to do, I would pay my staff more. If I could change anything, it would be that, because that would solve a lot of the problems, and it also would allow us to be able to get more people in and be able to get rid of those individuals. Because you can pay somebody $20 an hour, that's not going to change them.
Yeah,
It's what it's going to do. It's going to help your people who are struggling. It's going to help them be a little bit more comfortable, and then they're going to succeed. They're going to succeed anyways. It's the individuals who are going to fail when you're paying them $9 an hour. You try paying them $20, they're still going to fail.
Right.
But it allows me to be able to attract other people who also might fail, but it's going to help you attract more people who otherwise wouldn't do it for a lower wage. If I could change anything, that's what it would be.
Do you think just at what level is it like a training issue, or is it just a personality issue? There's always going to be people who aren't compliant, I guess. No matter what, you can tell somebody this is why we're doing something. This is why this rule is in place, and there will always be some people who are just because you told me to do this, I'm not going to do it. So I think there's any business in the world. What steps can you take as a field to maybe make everybody on the same page? Because I know it's super competitive. You guys, you talk about people leave, try and come back, go here, go there, and you're working in the same pool of businesses, and you guys are all on the same team. So,
I look at it as almost dating. That's what a lot of them try to do, and going towards. Kind of back to that question that Chris had answered, if I could change anything, one of them would be that, I stayed next door to my office. If I could live next door to my office, I could always be here to, fix some little problem that I saw versus...
I wouldn't change living next door to my office, but good for you, though.
That would, I'm sure it would drive me crazy, or at least my wife crazy. But it's... I look at it as the value of a quarter. To me, I think you will have someone literally leave my company to go to Chris's company for a quarter more when they don't even realize how much that quarter is. Did they actually equate that quarter in a 80-hour work week? Because it was about $40 difference. Is that really going to make or break or change you? And then you get into a situation just because you got that quarter more that you're not even happier in. You might be working with an individual that you're not even, you don't see eye to eye. You guys have different cultures. The culture of the company is different from what you believe and what you have. And then you're trying to run back. Not only is that making your resume look bad, because some people are stuck on the resume thing, but it's also making you look bad. It makes you look wish-washy as a worker. So I think there can definitely be more training and knowledge. I think that people have to get used to that ramen phase a little more and get smarter in there.
Well, I've been through the ramen phase for a little while, so I know that feeling. But it's kind of crazy because, you know, like I said, I'm outside. I see this, you know, everywhere. So it's like a worldwide phenomenon. It's hard.
Oh, it's like ghosting. Have you ever been ghosted? On the work, like employee aspect, well, you
trying to call the employee and then never return your phone calls.
Never return your phone call. No, don't come in for orientation. Won't
right after you hired them.
Right after, you know, won't show up for an interview, and I mean, it's crazy. Like it's a national epidemic.
Well, the challenge is in our field too. It's an entry-level position, so it's no different here. Retail. Cedar Point, anything. It's an entry-level position. We don't require any experience. You can get into this field. So that's where the difficulties lie. So you can retain your good people. Some of your other people are going to go on. And once I resigned myself to the fact that we're going to have turnover, I quit getting a sweat about it. And I'm just like, you know what? If they're here for 3 months and they take care of us for the next 3 months,
so
cool. 3 months, that helped.
On the flip side, so say this is your commercial. You have... Like, what would you say a person would expect in this job to do? I mean, at the CEO level, you guys are overseeing everything. So you're like, this is what you'll be doing day to day, and this is what to expect. So you're not just like, you know, wrong expectations or whatever. Like, what is a entry-level employee gonna do day to day as their job? For
me, expect to cook, clean, and do what the individual wants. That's
because they're paying.
Basically,
they're paying your check.
That's the majority of what it's going to be. One of the things that I've said before is that I blame us as upper management for the lack of motivation that a lot of our staff have, because we no longer required them to be engaged, and we didn't show them what engagement really was. You know, so I take time out of my day and along with our guy nights, our girl nights, and our co-ed nights to show, hey, this is what you need to do. You go out, you go bowling, you go putt-putt, play basketball, play some Uno, sit there and watch TV actually together. That means put your phone down and discuss the television show. So that's how I would break it down. What about you, Chris?
For me, it's a little bit different because to me, it's for them, have fun. Enjoy what you're doing. Go out and have fun with the individual, and get to know the person, treat them like an adult, and do what they ask you to do or what they want you to do, and support them. You know, I think in this field too, we set the people up for failure because we're supposed to care for that individual, make sure they're safe. Well, then we do that and we start treating them like children. And you're talking about a 45-year-old man who's like, "What do you mean I can't go eat? Like I got my fridge is right there. I'm gonna go eat. What, you already ate dinner?"
Like
so have fun with it. Just relax, man. If you could just do that and enjoy your day to day, you know, that stress level would come in, and I think they would have more fun doing it as well.
So you're basically taking care of this person, but they're in a way like, I'm not even gonna say customer. Like you're there to do what they need help with.
Yeah.
Like you're not their mom telling them yes or no. You're there to do what they want. Like, and make sure they're having a good life and having a good time, and you know, just like you would with anyone. You wouldn't invite a guest over and just be like, no, we're not doing that. Like, you know,
and it's because it's a real thin line about it, because we still are in charge of their health and safety. You know, it's very, so if you have an individual who is diabetic per se, who did just eat dinner, their blood sugar reading is a little higher, and they say, "Oh, I'm about to go eat, you know, a couple of cookies." It's our due diligence to remind them of the health scare of it, but to sit there and say, "No, you can't do," you know, that's abuse at that point. Okay. You know, you're smacking somebody's hand, or you know, you're just disrespecting them by ignoring their rights. Because if it was either one of us, if we have diabetes and we don't want to listen to the doctor, we don't have to listen to the doctor. I mean, we're not going to get written up for it or anything like that. So it's that's where the fine line comes in.
Yeah, and I want to understand, you know, coming from the outside, I mean, it's crazy because it's not like you're dealing with people with mental disabilities. It's not like, you know, I was telling Tony this before. I mean, I've gone to the events, you know, hung out, and there's people, and I'm like, who's the person with the disability, you know, and then
Right.
sometimes you can't tell. And then there's some people that it's obvious, you know, they're in a wheelchair, they're having a hard time talking. So it's like, how do you, you know, make everybody happy? And there's just this huge range of what is the term of disability? And, you know, I don't, like, what is that? That term's so broad. How do you guys even like embrace that? It's so difficult. It's like no joke. I look, because I run social media and stuff for Tony, so I'm on Instagram, Facebook all the time. You look up the hashtag disability, it's anything. It's like a free for all. I mean, it's insane. So it's like, you know, how do you guys differentiate what you do for, you know, say we take care of people with disabilities? Like, what does that mean to the general public who has no concept like me what that means?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a hard question to really answer, but you know, it's about the individual. So this individual is going to has different needs than this individual versus this individual. So there's people that we're giving them showers and feeding them. Mm-hmm. We got other individuals like we're just going to the movies with them.
Okay.
Others, we're just going to the doctor's appointment. We might help them try to fill out a doctor form. You know, so it's really individual based. And I got individuals we serve that drive.
Yeah.
They drive a vehicle.
Same thing.
You know, but their support they really need is just that social piece of it.
Right.
They got others who, I mean, they can't walk. Mm-hmm. They can't talk. They can't, I mean, they need everything. So it is quite a wide range, you know, and but everybody's unique, and, you know, the service we provide depends upon that individual.
And it's almost like this, think of it as from a mental illness standpoint. You know, how do we really delegate what mental illness and like how big of it is? It becomes a threat or so. I guess being the fact like someone with ADHD is technically mentally ill to, you know, or has a disability. Mm-hmm. Now that same another person on the other end who is schizophrenic and paranoid, I'm sure they're going to look a whole lot different from this other person when they act it out. Now, if both of them are both in calm, cool situations, you're not going to be able to tell the difference.
And that's all I've experienced up to this point. I've only gone to the fun stuff. I've gone to a few individuals' houses and, you know, helped take some photos and stuff with them hanging out, and gone to a couple events. But I mean, yeah, it's I don't see that side of it.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, everybody is not. It's almost just like, I mean, we're all married men here. 9 times out of 10, none of us are going to see the arguments with our wives. You know, so if we all went out to dinner, it's going to look nice and beautiful. But, you know, and on the flip side of things, you have your problems in the confines of your home.
So that's why he's got the podcast. He's got to play with words. and that's you know, I'm just looking for clarity. I don't know any of this. You guys are professionals in the field. You run the thing. So, and you know what?
It's so funny to hear you say that, because it's like I never considered and the reason I say it because I got that compliment a few different times in the past couple of weeks that I was a professional in this field. And
I mean, I never say that to you outside of the podcast.
Right.
For you.
But it's amazing to me because I think I told you before, like, this never felt like work to me. Like, it always felt like when I did go to an individual's house, I was there to hang out. I was there to just be myself, and I always, you know, did good at it.
Well, so let's talk about that for a second, though, because that's why you're successful. That's why you have grown from where you are 3 years ago to where you are today, which is like look back 3 years. Mm-hmm. Did you expect to be where you're at today?
Oh,
maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Maybe it's a surprise, maybe it's a reality. But like, I mean, has your company grown quite a bit over 3 years?
Yeah, it has.
All right, but it's happened because you did it by intention. Mm-hmm. Like, you intended to do good out there,
right?
But you don't look at it as a job, or you don't look at it as anything more than just, hey, I'm just out there making a difference. I'm just trying to have fun,
right?
You know, and by doing that, and not putting so much pressure about trying to be a business and everything else, that's where that success comes. Because I believe in the leadership piece of things, and I believe that people will follow certain individuals, and I believe that go to sports, right? Why is this coach successful here, 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 and here? Well, it's because that individual. Yeah. So you just say that, like, I just never looked at it that way. Well, that's fantastic, because that's why your company has been successful, is because you don't look at it as work. You just, hey, I'm just out there trying to make a difference, man. And this has been a byproduct of what I've been trying to do.
And I've seen it, like before he did this, he's like on the phone 24/7 as a manager for somewhere else. I mean, it's there's some people that draw that line, like, I don't work weekends, I'm not answering my phone.
And I got an email today I can show you that says I'm signing off on my emails. It's my day off, and I'm like, well, you don't have to answer it. You're still going to get emails. You don't have to answer them.
And so I hear, growth is kind of an issue, especially, I'm assuming, with the staffing problems. So how big is the need for this kind of field? Like, how big is the need that you guys are seeing for care in this manner, recreational care, or any aspect?
Well, it's probably bigger than we know.
Yeah, I think we couldn't even really put a percentage or a roof to it.
Well, is it to a point where it's just like you have people coming in continuously that need help all the time, or is it like
out there? Yes. Yeah. I mean, maybe not necessarily into my organization, but that need is out there. I mean, every day. I'd say every day we're getting emails that this person needs help, this person needs help, and
then at that, and I'm sure you get these too, because I just, from meeting you recently and speaking with you and seeing how your organization is ran from just the small time, good organizations will have the third parties constantly contacted. Like,
what do you mean by third parties?
Well, typically how this field is gone, us as owners or CEOs will get an email, or whoever the designated person is will get an email for, and I don't really like, it's not a bid form, but it's more or less we have to fill out an application if we want to provide services for an individual. Okay. And there's a small diagnosis list, a few likes and dislikes, and hours of service. Those come in daily. We pretty much get them daily. If they're not answered, then it kind of, well, let me take it back before that. If you get a call before that's put out, you're a good agency. I can almost guarantee you get those kind of calls, because I know I get those kind of calls. We will get a call before, like, hey, I have a such and such individual who I think your company will be really good for. And that's just because we've made those good connections, and we've shown that we have processes put in place that will help the common individual out here. Now, back to the point, if they're not answered, you will get those same calls almost begging you, like, hey, I'm out of luck here. This person hasn't had a provider in such and such time. And I kind of take it then as like, okay, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. And that's all, again, where it comes to the business mind of things.
And so what would, I know there's other organizations do the same thing, but they're like nonprofit based and all. Like, what's the main differences between like the nonprofit version of recreational care? Because my wife used to work at Sunshine, so I've seen her work there and do that. And I mean, what's different? I mean, it's a
Well, don't get me started on the nonprofit versus the first profit thing, right? Because there are some true nonprofit outs there that are really making a difference in the world, but you see a lot of nonprofits too. If you really break down their numbers, that just means they can't make a profit. That doesn't mean they can't pay their CEO $500,000 a year.
Exactly.
I mean, so like just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean that you're the most charitable organization. That is, so I think there's a misconception of that.
That whole nonprofit thing is basically for tax purposes and it's a business ploy. Now, not saying that some of these places don't do good work. Hats off and kudos to the ones that do. But I mean, either one of us could begin a nonprofit, create a board and pay the board minimum amounts of money, and then pay ourselves a higher rate.
Well, and I filed a LLC form like last year or something, and I've noticed the only difference between a for-profit and a non-profit is a checkbox on the form.
And if you're a nonprofit, you have to have a board of directors as well, so you can't just be a solely ran company as well. But like, and I don't want to call things out on here, but like there's a lot of them. There's one in particular, it's like the worst one, and it's for veterans.
Yeah.
But only 10% of everything they collect actually goes back to the families. Every 90% goes to the people running it,
Executive
and like trying to run the actual company.
Well, and I think that
And only 10% goes to the actual people. Like that's horrible.
Yeah, it's jacked up.
And well, I mean, I've been in both worlds. I've worked at nonprofits, I've worked at for-profits, I've worked everywhere in between, and I almost think that, and I could probably get in a lot of trouble for saying stuff like this, but I think a lot of the like for-profit places I've worked do a better job at treating their employees better, because it's you. It's your thing. It's not some hired gun to oversee and get the paycheck. It's the person who started the business is in charge of the image. It's your head on the thing. It's your vision out there. Whereas a nonprofit, there's so many people in different places that are, in charge of different things, and it's really easy for them to just be like, whatever. We don't care if we make any money or not. We just have to stay afloat. Mm-hmm. So, and it's always so different for me, because I had no idea that that this field in general, recreational care, taking care of people with mental disabilities, there were businesses that weren't nonprofits. That's all I ever saw. That's all you ever see.
Well, because it sounds good. If you go to the general community and say, hey, we're a nonprofit association and we're caring for those with developmental disabilities, would you like to donate? Oh, sure.
Right.
Versus, hey, I'm a for-profit. We would love take some of your profits.
It doesn't sound the same, does it?
Yeah, it just doesn't roll up the tongue.
You might be doing a better job, more caring and everything else, but it does not have like trying to go get donations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's much easier if you're a nonprofit.
Yeah, and then people hear that nonprofit, and there's a big misconception, not to focus on nonprofits for this whole talk, but there's a big misconception with nonprofits that they don't make any money. Like, when I worked at a nonprofit, people were like, well, how do they pay you? I'm like, no, they still make money.
They just don't turn a profit.
Yeah, they don't hold
That's
on
because
to
they spend all that money elsewhere, right?
They have to spend it.
Our executive staff are all making six figures. That's how we don't turn a profit, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's cool to clarify that too, because no joke, this anything to do with disabilities is just like this secret world, and that's what we're trying to break the veil on. It's nobody talks about it. It's only in the news when there's abuse or nobody ever just sits down and is like, hey, we run a business that helps people with mental disabilities. It's not talked about, and that's why we want these conversations, to get people aware that this isn't just a thing that churches run to do good in the community. This is a real helping people issue. Hospitals exist to help people. Hospitals make a ton of money, because they're not
in that boot camp. Sorry to interrupt, because I just didn't want to forget this. In the boot camp, we had somebody talking about, not using their cell phone. They couldn't use it. And I had to be very quiet at that point. And Chris will tell you, I'm pretty vocal at these things. But I was upset because the first thing I was thinking was, back in the day when I did DSP work, I also did, before they made a clever name for it, drop shipping. So I was on my phone quite a bit. I would order things from China, get them here, sell them on eBay. That was the only way I could sustain a family at the time. 3 kids and a wife, and I was the only. I think my wife was actually working. She was a financial advisor too.
Oh, nice.
But good thing, because you like to spend money.
So she advises you and not spending money.
Advises you to not spend it.
Yeah.
Well, anytime it's for me. It was for her, so go.
Well, yeah, she's not paid. She's just a financial advisor who quit spending money.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have my cell phone at those times, now granted, I did my job. I'm not saying no one shouldn't do their job, but if I didn't have my cell phone with me to do those things, my family would have went hungry, especially, I was probably making 10 and a quarter. And we tried to keep overtime and our stuff in our house down fairly much because that equated to bonuses at the end of the year. So I just couldn't get along with that. And I guess that's kind of what that ramen phase that I mean. And, just to kind of go back to that, that's one of the things I want to help teach our DSPs. If you're not going to be in this full time and you don't want to really grow into it, find another hustle that's going to get you through your life. Everybody can get paid somewhere.
On the flip side, is there a lot of room for growth in the field? In general?
If the company is big enough, but even then, people.
And that's the challenge with it. So one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create something where people can get promoted from within. Mm-hmm. But it's difficult. I don't have a lot of upward mobility at this point. And like Tony just said, the only way we can do that is we got to grow.
Yeah.
And we got to be able to create those opportunities for people. And the only way we can do that is keep getting better. Mm-hmm. Now, so other than that, in most other places, probably not.
We discussed this before. You guys are basically still in the startup phase of your. You're established, you're doing stuff, but you're still not, Walmart. You're not. Yeah, right. You don't have 30,000 positions open. And that's always probably hard for any business to start, let alone in a field that's already hard to get employees in. I work somewhere where there's a ton of upward mobility, but you have to be good. You can't just be I show up, do my 9 to 5, and go home. You got to be on your game to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. And not to say that you don't in the field. No, I think it just boils down to anybody who's gonna be good, just like you guys did. You put in the work, you did the work, you did what you had to do, and then you started your own business. Anyone with that mindset's gonna go up. And anybody who's just kind of getting by just to get by, you're never gonna climb that ladder no matter what, because you're putting yourself in that spot.
So this is what's the word? A pet peeve of mine, right? Because it comes down to attitude. If you believe you can, and you can. You really can.
Absolutely.
Or you can be everybody else sucks. This is the hand I was dealt, and it's their fault. It's their fault.
Right.
I know so many people who have been on their 30th job, and everywhere they go, the people are a pain in the ass or this, and I'm like, it's you. It's you. You're the problem.
You're the pain in the ass. Sorry to break the news, pal.
So I fully believe that you can do anybody can do whatever they want. And if you just put your mind to it, it might not happen immediately. And yes, this person has more of an advantage than this person does. But most of those billionaires, a lot of them, they didn't come from billionaires. They kind of moved up.
And you know what they all say? I worked 100 hours a week to get where I'm at, and I still work 100 hours a week. You don't, no matter what you do, whether you're busboy at a restaurant or a bagger at Kroger or CEO, you got to put in the work, man. You got to, if you want to get anywhere, and this is something Tony and I talk about all the time, just in general. You got to just put your nose to the grindstone on anything, whether it's washing dishes or whatever. Because
be the best dishwasher in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
And you will get far doing it. I had a person back in the day. We have meetings every Monday with all of our site managers, and a staff person that walked in and said, I want to be in that meeting. I was like, well, it's not necessary for you to do it, but you could. First thing he said, well, do I get paid for it? Well, tell me this, how much would you pay to work next to Mark Zuckerberg?
Who?
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't say that, honestly. But he was like, I don't know, he's a billionaire, so he got to pay me a few thousand easy. And
that ain't how it works, buddy.
It's not. And it's dude, you are missing the point. The education in of itself. Why do you think, this whole NCAA thing, I might get killed by some, I might get shunned by some. Unless you're the star player of the team, I don't think that you should get paid to play.
Why should the star of the team get paid and nobody else?
Because he's being notarized. Yeah, now, if
notarized?
Yes. If you Zion Williams.
Okay.
When he was playing, was it Duke?
Yep.
I believe he could have got paid. Who else? There was 2 other young guys on there on the team. I don't really like Duke, so I don't care. I feel like they could have probably got a cut. They were the face of the team. Now, without Zion, they would have to have somebody else who would. It's like having your franchise player. Your franchise player is always going to be that head up. Now, I do believe room and board should always be taken care of. I do believe that the education and an insurance policy in the event that you are injured. Like, I mean, I've taken notes on how deep I think this thing can go. Because
I mean, it really does all day.
You're right. All the NCAA, I'm after you. But I mean, you got to take that time, and this is going to lead back to what I was saying with that. You got to take that time to grow and learn what you are going to do. 90% of those players are not going to the NBA. So they need to spend most of their time worried about their tests that they need to take for whatever that they're going to school for. Mm-hmm. Same thing with that person who came and saw that meeting. You just want to be in the meeting just so you can be seen. Like, know what we're talking about. Spend time with us to actually learn it, do better, then you will be paid to come into the meeting.
Well, that kind of goes back to what I said. The individual who's had 30 jobs and their boss is an idiot, their boss wants to do this, but they don't pay me enough to do that. You don't have to brown nose, but like, if your boss asks you to do something, do it.
Yeah.
And do it to the best of your ability. There's a difference between kissing ass and...
Yeah.
That's a simple, like, it's a simple thing you can do. It's not rocket science. Like, and it's just all about how you look at it. I've had a few jobs since I've been working, like 14, whatever, sweeping floors and stuff. But the way I've always looked at it is like, this dude's paying me out of his own money, even though it's his business, and it's still, you made the investment to grow that money. It's this dude, he's paying me. If he tells me to do something, no matter it's jump in that pond and pick out rocks, which is something I've had to do, or can you come in at night till midnight? And it's like, this dude's giving me the money I'm using to be alive. So like, why wouldn't I do it? He says, I know it's not
into a pond and picked out rocks.
I did that. I showed up to a podcast at 3 PM too.
That's so stupid.
But no, it's all about your mindset. And you see, like, I put in time. I really wanted to learn how to do like all this audio stuff. So I wasn't even like invited. I just went to a recording studio that this guy owned. He was a teacher I went to school. He was one of the recording teachers. And I just found out where his place was, and I just started showing up. I never got paid. I stayed there for months. And he just like, well, I guess this guy's here now. I just sat and took notes and I watched. And like, I learned so much in that short amount of time. And now I can, kind of do it on my own. I'm no like master, but I think anybody with that mindset can do anything. I mean, as long as you're willing to put in the work. And like, so many people worry about the money. Like, the money will come in time if you're actually good at what you do and you actually like put in the time and effort to not suck at what you're doing. Like that guy, like you said, he just wanted to be in the meeting so people would see him. Like, if your intention is to go into the meeting to be informed and to learn, that's sweet. If your intention is to go into the meeting so you can feel important, like, you're wasting your time, you're wasting my time. So,
I mean, like Jim Rohn said, I believe he said, your direct value will always equal out to your value to the marketplace. You always get paid in equal reflection to the marketplace, the value that you offer. So, I mean, our salaries show how good we are. If not now, in the pending future, it will definitely get there. But since we're on the subject, I gotta ask both of you, what was the first job you got fired from?
Fired?
Yeah. I had a landscaping job.
Really?
And the boss had told us to go, he's like, we don't have much to do today, so just go here and do some weeding in the flower bed, then go here and like just do some weed whipping, blow some weeds, and then go home. Mm-hmm. Well, we sat at that first job. I mean, we weeded like every little weed that came out. I mean, it took us most of the day.
Oh, I've been there.
And then we went and did the other jobs. We got back and then it went home. The guy's like, well, why did you guys not come back? And we're like, well, we did. He's like, well, I didn't see you. We're like, well, yeah, we did this and this. He's like, that took you all day to do that. I mean, I was 18, you know. I called it, when all my friends asked me, I called it laid off. But I got terminated because he never said he got fired. He just said, we don't need your services anymore. And I was like, okay. So that was my first job I got. That's the only job I got fired from.
Oh, that must be nice.
Guess unless I say anything stupid right now, I haven't been fired. I've never been fired from a job.
So now I'm interested, Tony. Since you brought it up, we need to take notes.
Kinda. Well, no. It was 2. The first one is a well-known agency around town. We'll say after the camera's off, but you know who you are. They let me go. I think I told you the story the day after Christmas.
Ouch.
On my company phone.
That's bad. That's a bold move.
That was a real bold one. And it was so crazy. Like, now I look back at it and I can laugh. Like, wow, I can't believe it. And some of the problems that company has gone through since then is just, I mean, I kind of feel bad for the owners and stuff, but that was a tough situation, especially being that my son was going to be born 6 months later. I bought the Wii. I mean, we had a very good Christmas that year.
For a minute.
For a minute.
You had a
So Christmas was good. It was the day after Christmas.
Right.
I think it all went down.
And honestly, and then the last agency that I worked for before starting the company, and this is another well-known company around the city. I'll tell you again after the cameras are off. You know you are. I think they wanted to. I ran every position at the company, other than like the director and coordinator spot. I mean, I did every other position there.
I remember that.
Yeah, and there was some funny stuff going on, and I spoke up about it. Now, typically, I'm that person. I was the worker that we wish that we had to just, bite it and do what I got to do. I spoke up on it. When I spoke up on it, it didn't really resonate as well as I thought.
Yeah. That usually doesn't.
So after that, not even a week goes by. They call me in and let me go. But the irony behind that same week, I got my okay from the state. So I went in there with a suit. I was nice. I knew it was coming, so I let them go ahead and do it. Had a whole bunch of pamphlets in my pocket. So that I shook everybody's hand. I told them good luck with the coordinator that they had at the time, which they no longer even have anymore. And then I went and started handing out my flyers to different places.
Here you are today.
That's a great. It's an interesting story how that kind of all transitioned, but there comes down to like you need to treat people right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know about your situation when we get off camera. You're gonna be interested, but like you just got to treat people right. If you treat people right, they're gonna want to do right. I have a belief that there is good in everybody, and I choose to look at the good in the individuals. And I do that too often because there's a lot of bad that I'm like, it's there. All right, well, we haven't found it yet. I gotta go. But it's amazing if you would just treat people right, and you take care of them.
Yeah,
I think how much of a difference that makes. And when you don't do that, because you made a comment about like they've had some struggles since. Well, it's karma. It came back to you. It's great. You cheated today and you won. But in the long run, you lost.
Yep.
So.
I mean, I just look at the growth that we've had here as a company. If they would have put me in the correct position there, it could have translated into that.
Exist.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Honestly, and that's one of the things. Again, that higher power, man. I think that really pushed it. Something in me said that I shouldn't be there because I used to work for the county also. And
sometimes you just get that gut feeling. It's like, this ain't for me, man.
Well, when I was working for the county, it was always a whole bunch of talks about them privatizing and all of that. When I came in, I was supposed to been able to retire by the time I was like 45 years old and everything. I'm like, oh man, everything is awesome. And it became a situation where people that I worked with there opened up an agency, and I went and worked there, and I fell in love with the residential side. Now, I got into some stuff over there at the county, which made it easier because I was young. I was, about 20, 21. And I was like, well, it makes it easier. I can just leave y'all, take my purse. Oh, I got $7,000. I can go spend on some stuff. But then to see all of the stuff that happens from there, all my coworkers, all the people that I used to work with back there, some of them are working for me now. And
that's got to be a good feeling.
It is. Right? It is when they're haters. Like Damon John says, hustle until your haters actually are you hiring. Right? So yeah, man, it's one of those weird feelings, but good feelings.
Well, we've been running on for like an hour now, believe it or not.
Beautiful.
I want to say thanks, Chris, for
coming
out
Chris,
today and hanging out with us. We've enjoyed your presence. Hey, you want to give us like any updates you got on your business? Anything going on? Anything you want people to know? And we'll just give us some
plugs, taglines if you have
shameless self-promotion minute.
And I appreciate that, but I always try to remain humble, and I always try to remain, it's about other people and put that focus on them. So, I got some things in the work, but it's really just it's for the employees, just trying to get better. So, we constantly change, and we constantly look at what we're doing, and the cool thing is that we keep getting better. Right. I don't mean bigger, just better. I'm like, we look back at it and we're like, I can't believe we did it that way. Like, what were we thinking? How did that even work? Like, look how much better we had it. So no, I'm going to leave the shameless plugs alone. But I appreciate you having me on here, and it was actually pretty fun to sit down and have this kind of conversation, because I don't get to have these kind of conversations very often. Yeah. Very few times do I get to sit around and have like a good high energy group where people are on the same level, thinking the same things, trying to not compete with each other, but create and do better for other people. And I definitely felt that today. So
cool.
It was a good feeling.
We had fun. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah. It was awesome.
We'll have you back.
Definitely want you back, man.
We'll be back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a wrap, gentlemen.
That's a wrap. Numero dos
in the books.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the Friends for Life podcast. Don't forget to help us out by hitting that subscribe button. We got a bunch more stuff coming for you. See you next time.